everyone, and welcome to Accesa TechTalks Episode 2. As you might already know, this series aims to explore today the technology that's shaping businesses tomorrow. I'm your host, Radu Vingan, and in this episode, we're talking about something that has moved far beyond simple task automation. We'll explore hyperautomation. We'll explore what it really means, but more importantly, how businesses can move from isolated bots to enterprise-wide intelligent automation. These are powerful words indeed. And I'm thrilled to be joined by Maria Irimias because she's definitely the right fit for this particular topic. Maria is recognized as an industry expert. She's an UiPath MVP and also a service manager at Accesa. So Maria, great to have you. And I would like you to share some words about yourself so that the audience can get to know you better.
Hi, Radu, and hi, everyone. And first of all, thank you for having me here. As who am I? I am Maria. I would like to say that I'm just me, a tech savvy, and I started my journey in IT 20 years ago as a software developer. From there, I switched from junior developer to senior developer to solution architect, and landed in Accesa 6 years ago as a specialist and solution architect on the RPA department. From there to today, I learned a lot across different paths, and now I'm having the service manager role and trying to build the strategy of how hyperautomation is defined today.
Nice, interesting. And I think we can already start with an insightful question because we hear about robots, about automation, and recently about hyperautomation. We hear about them in many contexts, but some people still associate all these topics with simple bots or with conventional RPA. So the question would be, how do you define hyperautomation today?
You are right. Actually, the term hyperautomation, it's everywhere, but it's so often misunderstood. It was first introduced back in 2019, and it was introduced by Gartner as a concept for the strategic trends for 2020. But people are thinking of it, and mostly people thought of it as just more bots, faster automation. But now in 2025, hyperautomation really matured. It's not just about automating the tasks anymore. It's about intelligent orchestration. I like to use an analogy of a symphony, for example. RPA are the hands who play an instrument, and one single instrument. But then across the path, we have AI, machine learning, which added the brains. So now we are not just playing the notes of that instrument, but we are composing really music. And with that said, to finalize the analogy, hyperautomation today is the entire orchestra. We have AI, machine learning, process mining, and even generative AI together with RPA, all working together to automate end-to-end processes.
Okay, I like the example of an orchestra. So the next question would be, and let's keep this example or this analogy. What has changed during the recent years in this orchestra?
Well, actually, what's changed is that we moved from just playing, just doing the task, and actually understanding the why behind them and acting on them, basically. For example, if I take the invoice process back in 2019, then a bot might just move the data from the invoice to different system, from the ERP, from the finance department, sorry. But today, we have AI which validates that data, flags anomalies like a human would do. You have the RPA bot who move the data from system to system, and you can have even a generative AI chatbot. And if some clarification might be needed, that chatbot might clarify them for you. And to add on top of it, the system, the automation itself learns from each cycles and improves throughout repetition.
Okay, so from something more transactional, let's say, we moved towards something more tactical or strategic. I would understand, and I would also say that okay, they are playing in an orchestra, but maybe they are also dancing meanwhile together. Um, and I noticed that you mentioned when you talked about the RPA or about the robot, you mentioned who and not it, which is for some people interesting. For others, it might be scary. Um, and actually, the vast complexity of these topics, I would imagine, scares business leaders, and some of them can hardly grasp and crystallize it in their language. Maybe you can share with us some real use cases, clear benefits brought by automation based on your experience with some customers.
Sure thing. Um, from what I have seen, the impact it's massive. We are seeing cost savings up to 50% and ROI in hundreds of percentage just within the first year, and not to mention the huge gains in speed and accuracy. If I am to think of one use case which is really relevant to hyperautomation, is the JP Morgan coin system. That's, from my perspective, a really great example because it reviews 12,000 contracts in just seconds. It saves hundreds of thousands of hours of legal work. And from my point of view, that's not just automation, it's real transformation. So in 2025, to conclude a little bit, from my point of view, automation is not just about doing stuff, it's also about empowering your people. It's about letting the digital workforce handle the repetitive rule-based work so the humans can focus on creativity and strategic innovation.
Okay, now on a different note, a lot of companies start with POCs, with small wins or with pilot projects, but few really scale them successfully. Why do you think this happens?
Um, that's a great question. And honestly, one I've seen play out many times. A lot of companies start strong with automation pilots. They get early wins, maybe automate a few repetitive tasks, and it feels like momentum is building. But somehow afterwards, things stall. Why? In my experience, it often comes down to mindset. Many organizations treat automation as just a quick fix or a tech experiment, something owned by the IT or just a single department. Um, from my point of view, real transformation requires automation to be seen as a business strategy, not just a side project. What I have consistently noticed is that these efforts are fragmented. Teams launch their own initiatives without a shared vision or a roadmap. There is no alignment with broader business goals, no consistent standards, and no plan for scaling or even maintaining what has been built. And one trap which I see is the low hanging fruit trap. It's tempting to stick to easy wins, but those, from my perspective, don't move the needle long term. The real value comes from automating the complex stuff, cross functional processes, But that's where the things get harder. And not to mention the change management. Automation isn't about tech, it's about people, as I mentioned earlier. If the employees are not brought along on this journey, they don't understand the why behind it, and you will face resistance. And the last one, the technical part, scaling across legacy systems without a solid integration strategy. That's, from my perspective, a recipe for fragility once I have seen. A pilot might work in isolation, but scaling demands strong infrastructure and seamless connectivity.
Okay, so there are many elements, many issues. You mentioned about alignment, about people, about strategy, maybe also about courage. In other words, but what does it take? Actually, practically, what does it take to move away from playing with this topic to being strategic, to building robust automation, or even to be really courageous?
Um, it starts with establishing an automation center of excellence. Nowadays, I would call it intelligence center of excellence because it can act as an internal consultancy, set the standards, provide the governance, and ensure that alignment with the business goals. Then you need to have the value driven strategy. Don't automate just because you can. Automate where it truly drives impact, basically. And finally, as I said also before, invest in people. Build a culture where automation is seen as an enabler, not a threat. Train them, communicate clearly for them, and celebrate the wins.
Okay, so center of excellence would be a key statement for people to research and to understand better. But I would move now to a different topic, which is more focused on the future. What's the ultimate goal of hyperautomation?
Um, for this, I have just a simple answer. At the of the day, the goal is not to scale the bots, it's to scale the impact.
Okay, simple and powerful, right? Maria, I know you work and have worked with a lot of businesses across multiple industries. What are some signs that a company is ready to scale hyperautomation beyond just a few processes here and there?
It's interesting you ask this because the landscape has really evolved. Readiness to scale hyperautomation today isn't about how many bots a company has. It's about the mindset and also the maturity. Over the past 7 years at Accesa, I have seen clear signs that show when an organization is truly ready to take the next leap. What I have seen that it starts with leadership. Budget approvals are one thing, but real readiness shows when executives are actively driving the automation as a strategic priority for them. For example, when you see your exec asking, hey, how can we automate 30% of our workflows to improve the customer response time? That's a strong indicator that they see automation as a business enabler, not just a tech initiative. And as mentioned before, then there's the impact. A bot running quietly in the background isn't success. But when you see measurable outcomes like cutting invoice processing time in half or saving hundreds of hours within an AI chatbot, using those wins to build a momentum, that's when you know that you are on the right path to scale up. And another big one is having a properly defined automation pipeline. The most mature organization don't just react to opportunities, they plan for them. They've got a growing list of automation ideas across department, and they are prioritized by their business values. And yes, of course, the governance plays a huge role. Even a small center of excellence can bring the consistency and set the standards and ensure that alignment across the initiatives. And that's what makes sustainability scalable from my perspective. And here are also often a place where people do overlook process standardization, because many organizations, they just don't do it. And from my perspective, you can't automate the chaos. Start with clean processes, streamline the processes first, and only afterwards automate them. And last, as I mentioned, also bring your people in. Culture. Are the employees curious? Are they being trained? Are they encouraged to contribute with ideas? Do they see automation as something that it helps them or threats them? That openness to change, from my perspective, is just as critical as any technology. So really, scaling isn't about tools or pilots. It's about having that right foundation, as I mentioned, governance, strategy, and clean processes. And on top of it, add on it the right mindset and across your entire leadership and teams. So when you have all these signs aligned, you are ready to scale your hyperautomation initiative.
I like the depth of your answer, and also the fact that you um, answer from by looking from different angles at the same issue. And what really resonated with me was when you talked about the involvement of the executives, but also when you talked about if the people of the organization really look at this particular subject with fear or with excitement or even curiosity. So let's move on and talk again about a very big word nowadays, which is AI, because we cannot ignore AI's role in this topic, right? I mean, AI is being mentioned often nowadays together with automation. And my question would be, how are AI and hyperautomation converging, and what does that mean for businesses?
Absolutely. AI has really become the engine behind hyperautomation today in 2025. If I relate to the analogy which I made, RPA is like the hands doing the work, and AI is the brain making the decision. It's what brings real intelligence into every part of the automation process. Let me give you some quick examples, basically, to show how that looks like in real life, basically. One thing I can exemplify here is that the AI helps system make smart decision. It can read an email, understand what the person is asking using natural language processing, and choose the best way to respond, something which RPA alone just can't do it. Second, it works with messy unstructured data. I was mentioning the invoice process. The AI can actually see and understand them using computer vision or other technology behind the scene, and pulls out the right information where a regular bot would have got stuck before it. And it's also proactive, can spot different patterns and predict things, like equipment failures in maintenance, or in manufacturing, for example, and maintenance, or delivery delays in retail industry. So they it helps basically organization um, react to the problems before they actually happen. And fourth, it supports the human judgment. It can flag suspicious activity like frauds in bank industry. It can route tricky service requests to the right people and handle the routine stuff on its own. Basically, it's like a smart assistant that knows when to step in and when to escalate. And that is why nowadays it is not called just automation, it is called AI driven automation. And this gap between what people and machine can do now, it's shrinking really fast, basically. And in order to support that, there are some statistics which say and mention that by 2029, it's expected that 94% of businesses will be using AI in their automation strategy. It's it's no longer a maybe, it's a must.
Mhm.
But
And that number is huge, actually.
yes, but to make this work at scale, companies need to take care of some things because now you rely on data and you need good data. AI needs the data to be clean, well organized, and in order to work properly. If your data is messy, the results will be also messy, basically. And you need the right talent there. You don't need just RPA developers anymore. You need people who can understand data science, machine learning, and even prompt engineer nowadays. So upskilling your teams, it's also essential. And because we are talking about AI, clear rules and ethics, it's a must. The AI needs to be fair, transparent, and trustworthy. That means that you need to set a governance in place as early as possible and keep the human involved in key decision. And yes, the technology is here, it's strong, and you need to take care of it. You need to integrate it right into your systems, basically. Without that, without a solid integration, things might fall apart. And lastly, cybersecurity. AI by himself, um, it's very strong and it brings new opportunities, but also new risk. You have to protect your systems because while AI can help you detect the threats, it can also become itself a threat. So
Mhm.
this isn't just about doing things faster. It's about building those systems that can think, can learn, and can act. And this is the future of work. And honestly, if you ask me, this future is here and will even evolve more.
Yeah, that's fascinating, actually. And although there is enough complexity already, let's introduce another buzzword today, which is agentic AI. Can you explain in simple terms what agentic AI means?
Yeah, sure, I can. Because for me, as a tech savvy, it's exciting to see how fast this space is evolving. While I just addressed how AI driven automation basically help the system make smarter decision, we have nowadays agentic AI, which goes a step further basically. It gives those systems the ability to act more independently, almost like digital coworkers. We are not just telling machines what to do anymore. We are giving them a goal and they figure it out basically by themselves. Think about of it this way. Instead of programming every step of a process, we now just need to define the outcome, like onboard a new vendor, and that's it. The agent takes care from here and it works by himself and does the job. It knows what tools to use and how to connect the dots, basically, how to deliver the result. It's not about running tasks anymore. It's about achieving outcomes. And what makes agentic AI powerful, it's the ability to adapt, basically. With traditional automation, you have a lot of fragility there. If an unexpected error occurs, the process actually just breaks. You have a lot of maintenance to do. But with this new agent, everything changes because they can reason through problems. They can adjust their approach and even escalate issues with context when needed, basically. They just don't follow the instructions like regular bots do. They think on their feet. And this shift is giving rise to true digital co-worker, basically. Um, if I would add an example here, I would give the example of a customer onboarding. If I would give an example, I would think of a customer contacting their internet provider. Basically, an AI agent runs diagnostics, resets the router, for example, and confirms that everything is fixed. But then suddenly, the customer asks, "Hey, how about the billing?" At that point, another agent will step in and will help with the billing issue. No blockage, no hands off, no delays, and no scripts behind. Just seamless, intelligent service at this point. So while AI brought the intelligence into the hyperautomation world, agentic AI brings the autonomy.
Mm. And I also like the fact that you shared this example, this particular example, because a lot of us struggle with chatbots nowadays when it comes to support. And I think this next step would really, at least theoretically, would really lower our frustration. And for people hearing about it for the first time now or in other situations, theoretically, I think the whole thing sounds intriguing. But for the ones that saw an agent work, I think it's even more fascinating. Um, so, given this philosophical, let's say, view on it, we covered a lot today, and I'd like you to share a bit from your experience because there are leaders today that would like to take hyperautomation seriously. They would like to go to the next step, but maybe they don't really know how to do it. So, what would be your one piece of advice how to take hyperautomation seriously?
Yes, indeed, we have covered a lot today, maybe too much. We have gone from automating simple tasks, repetitive ones, to the rise of agentic AI, which is nowadays present with us. And basically, I have one simple goal is to give you a clear picture of how just quickly hyperautomation is advancing, influenced, yes, by the trends which are running with us. And if I was to give one single advice, I would like to leave you with this basically. Even if I'm a tech savvy, I would say that you don't need to chase automations, you need to chase the outcomes. Basically, it's not about jumping on every new tool. It's techy, it's cool, yes, but does it solve your issue? Does it bring real value to your business? So, somehow, from my perspective, in order to keep it simple, keep it smart, start by asking the right questions. What are you actually trying to fix or to improve? If for you that's not clear, then probably it's not the right time to bring in the technology. Purpose has to come first always. Afterwards, make sure that every automation initiative is actually tied to something measurable, have some KPIs behind it, whether that's time saving, cutting costs, or just improve the customer experience. If you cannot track it, then it's hard, maybe even impossible to scale it. And don't underestimate the importance of structure. Without governance, you are scaling chaos. And list, or finally, keep your people at the center of it every time you do it, because automation should support and augment your teams, not sideline them, basically. Free them from their mundane work, from their repetitive task, so that in the end they can really be authentic, because that's matter. That's what's important. The creativity, the strategy, and the impact that they can bring along with the technology, which helps augment their capabilities. Uh, because, as I mentioned also before, at the end of the day, hyperautomation isn't just about the technology, it's about transformation. So use it wisely, build it with purpose, and always lead with outcomes, not just hype.
I really like your advice. I like the fact that you also, let's say, your advice goes hand in hand with our values, with Accessa's values, which one of them is people-centric. And another thing I would like to appreciate is the fact that your answers throughout this episode were consistent, right? So you looked both on the technology, but also at the people. And lastly, another mention from me would be the fact that, let's say, in simple terms, what we want is to be curious, or leaders to be curious, and treat hyperautomation as a means towards a goal and not as the goal itself, because it sounds fancy, right? So we should treat it as
You
a
are right. It sounds fancy, it's not, and always outcome should matter most. Thank you for having me here.
Great insights, Maria. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise and experience. We've covered how automation is evolving beyond bots, why scaling matters, and what leaders can do to really unlock real business value from this whole topic. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to Accesa TechTalks on Bright Talk, YouTube, and or LinkedIn. And of course, join us next time when we continue exploring the future of digital transformation with more industry voices. So stay tuned. Bye.